I had never imagined that, on a clear morning, four enormous bulldozers would block the entrance to my house. And there was Karen Mitchell, the president of the Homeowners Association, or HOA, standing with a sinister smile. She had no idea who she was up against, or that the land beneath her feet truly belonged to me, in the literal sense. If you found out that this detestable HOA board wasn't just illegally harassing you, but also stealing tens of thousands of dollars from your neighbors' pockets, what would you do? I still remember the day everything turned upside down. The gentle morning sunlight warmed my back as I knelt on the soft soil by the pathway, carefully planting the last of my carrot seedlings. After 20 years of living in stress, I had found peace in gardening, the dirt clinging to my hands, the smell of fresh grass, and the hope of home-cooked meals. That was the remedy keeping me sane. I'm Michael Carter, 48 years old, a retired lawyer. After 20 years of grinding through 90-hour work weeks at a law firm in the bustling city of Denver, I was born and raised in the peaceful countryside of Colorado, where land isn't just property. It's the very breath of my family. After years of hustle, I moved to Pinewood Hills to find some calm, to let hands once accustomed to paperwork now touch the soil and grow lush vegetable beds. But I never expected that, in the very place I chose to rest, a storm of power and corruption would strike, threatening to tear apart my humble dream. "What the hell are you doing?" I looked up to see Karen Mitchell standing at the edge of my property, arms crossed tightly over her expensive blouse. Her dyed blonde hair was stiff as a statue, her lips pursed in disdain. "Good morning, Karen," I replied, wiping my hands on my dirt-stained apron, trying to keep my tone calm. "I'm just expanding my vegetable garden a bit." Her eyes narrowed, scanning the neatly arranged rows of vegetables along the path. "This is unacceptable, Michael. Front yards in Pinewood Hills must follow the approved plant list. Vegetables belong in the backyard, out of sight." I took a deep breath, suppressing the anger rising within me. Karen had been HOA president for the past 7 years, turning our once friendly neighborhood into a battlefield of absurd rules and surprise fines. "Karen, my land deed predates the HOA by 40 years. I have a special exemption from most of these rules." I stood up, feeling the stark contrast between my muddy jeans and her polished appearance. "Don't try that with me," she snapped, pulling out her phone with a triumphant air. "I'm documenting this violation. The board will hear about it immediately." I watched as she snapped a flurry of photos, her fingers flying across the screen. Two neighbors walking their dogs slowed down, their curious eyes glued to the confrontation. "I've read every line of the HOA agreement," I said, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I still have the letters from the old board confirming my exemption." "Want to see them?" Karen waved her hand dismissively, as if swatting a fly. "Save it for the hearing. You'll get an official violation notice tomorrow. I suggest you clean up this mess." She pointed at my garden with contempt. "Before the fines get worse." As she turned on her heel and walked away, I caught a sympathetic glance from Mrs. Lewis across the street. Just last week, Karen had fined her for painting her garage a light gray instead of the mandated dark gray. That night, true to her word, a glaring yellow violation notice was taped to my front door. A $75 fine per day until the unauthorized agricultural activity in my front yard was removed. The hearing was scheduled for 10 days later. I grabbed the paper and tossed it into a thick file labeled HOA nonsense. But this time, I felt it was personal. A malicious attack that set my blood boiling. The phone rang. It was Mrs. Olivia Bennett, the kind, elderly woman who lived at the end of the street since before Pinewood Hills even existed. "Michael, my dear." Her voice trembled over the line. "I saw Karen giving you a hard time this morning. You're not the first. Last month, she fined the Morgan family $700 because their wooden ramp for their disabled son didn't fit the neighborhood's aesthetic." My blood boiled. "How can that even be legal?" "It's not," Olivia confirmed. "But they couldn't afford to fight it. They paid the fine and fixed it. Karen's been getting worse ever since her buddy David became the HOA's lawyer." I thanked her and hung up, the anger keeping me restless all night. The next morning, I decided to dig deeper. My family once owned most of this land before selling it to developers back in the 1960s. My dad had mentioned keeping some special rights, but I'd never paid much attention. I was rummaging through old boxes in the attic when a rumbling sound roared outside. My heart pounded as I rushed to the window, for massive bulldozers blocked the driveway, trapping my car inside. Karen stood there in a crisp suit, next to a tall man in an expensive suit I'd never seen before. Neighbors started gathering on the sidewalk as whispers rippled through the scene. I gripped my phone and HOA documents. My anger turned into steely resolve. Karen had picked the wrong person to mess with. I stepped onto the porch, my pulse racing as Karen's smug grin sent a chill down my spine. The bulldozers growled. Their drivers waited for orders. "Michael Carter," Karen shouted, her voice echoing through the neighborhood. "The board held an emergency meeting last night. Your violations are too severe, and we are authorized to act immediately." The man beside her stepped forward. "I'm David Pierce, legal counsel for Pinewood Hills HOA. These," he pointed at my vegetable beds, "are unauthorized structures and will be removed under Section 6.2 of the bylaws. Emergency measures for a public nuisance." The neighbors fell silent. Mrs. Harper covered her mouth in shock, and the Sullivan kids stopped biking to stare. I stepped down from the porch, my mind racing for a counter. But my voice stayed firm. "Mr. Pierce, you'd better check your legal footing. These aren't structures. They're just temporary garden beds. And more importantly, you're about to make a mistake you can't even fathom." David's smile faltered briefly. "Your threats don't scare us, Mr. Carter. We have full authority under the HOA agreement." Karen stepped closer, her eyes blazing with power. "Michael, why are you so stubborn? Agree to get rid of that ugly mess. Pay the $450 in accumulated fines, and this will all be over." The bulldozers revved louder. The nearest driver glanced at me with unease. I pulled out my phone, my hand trembling with fury. "Before you do anything, I'm letting you know, I'm recording this. I just texted a colleague from my law firm to come here. And there's one more thing about this land you should know." Karen rolled her eyes with disdain. "Don't pull your silly lawyer tricks, Michael. Nothing's stopping this." Just then, a sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb. Neighbors parted as Sheriff Holloway stepped out, followed by a woman clutching a thick stack of county records. Karen frowned, then panicked. "What's this? A petty HOA issue doesn't need the police." I gave a faint smile, feeling a spark of hope for the first time that day. "Karen, you don't know whose driveway you just blocked. And you definitely don't know whose land your bulldozers are parked on." The county clerk, Mrs. Coleman, set a pile of weathered maps on the sheriff's hood, sweat beading from the weight. Neighbors crowded around, whispering excitedly. The bulldozers fell silent, as the drivers sensed the shift. "This is the original survey map from 1965, Mrs. Coleman explained, pointing to the yellowed paper. "And this is the land sale contract between the Carter family and Pinewood Development Company." Karen stormed forward, her voice shaky but still defiant. "Nonsense. Whatever ancient papers you drag out, they don't override the HOA's authority." Sheriff Holloway cleared his throat. "You'd better listen to what Mrs. Coleman has to say." The clerk adjusted her glasses. According to the records, when the Carter family sold the land for development, they retained 3 rights. First, mineral rights beneath the entire 150 acres of the neighborhood. Second, ownership of underground utilities under the main road. And third, most importantly, exemption from any future homeowners association for the 4 homes they kept. I stepped forward, my voice steady. "My house is one of them.